Hey there, good evening. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show. A show that's dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So today we're doing our series, which is Rock Stars That Thrilled Us but since have passed on. Today is episode number 50, year 2012. Lots of people died this year, unfortunately. The two I chose, though, were people that I was the most familiar with. Davey Jones of the Monkees and John Lord of Deep Purple. So anyways, and then once I do these two, I will go back and do all of my honorable mentions. I've got, looks like, about 13 or 14 anyways. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I was trying to put my glasses on. Anyways, we start out with Davey Jones since he passed first, and that's normally the way I deal with this. Davey Jones was born December the 30th, 1945 at, well, maybe I do need my glasses a little bit, at Openshaw, Manchester in England. He died, oddly enough, on February the 29th. 2012 in Stuart, Florida, USA. He was a pop rock, sunshine pop, psychedelic rock, and that's it. Those were the genres he sang in. He was a vocalist, of course, and he was active from 61 to 2012. Now, for most of you, Davey Jones was an actor who played a part in a TV show about a rock group. So basically they were all actors. The first couple of years, all the music was done by session musicians, and they just did the vocals and acted as if they were playing the instruments. But after a couple of years, they wanted more control of the music because they started thinking of themselves as a real band and wanted to play the music that they were doing on the show. So as you know, we did Don Kirshner last episode, and he was the guy who was in charge of making the music and the writing for the Monkees. Sorry. Anyways, Davey Jones was sort of picked as the front man because he was the one guy who actually had some musical experience and was contracted to produce music as a singer. He came about this because, other than his early acting things, he did an episode on Coronation Street. He was acting in a show where he was it was a cop show in which he played a particular part in. But once he got into the Monkees, the reason that they decided on him as the front man was because he already had a record contract to sing and actually had a single out that had made the top 100 at that time, the Hot 100. So he was chosen as frontman, although the band said, Peter Tork said that if they had gone based on everybody's abilities when they first started out, Peter Tork would have been the guitar player, Mike Nesmith would have been the bass player, and Davey Jones would have been the drummer because he was the best drummer of all of them. He also played bass and keyboards as well, but they chose him as the vocalist because he already had a vocal contract, and he was kind of that Beatles-ish looking type guy who fit the role of singer, and the girls loved him and screamed like mad when he would go on. Anyways, after the series was over, he and Mickey Dolenz, along with Boyce and Hart, Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart, went on tour as music from the Monkees because they were not allowed to use the Monkees label since it was owned by the movie theaters, the studio. So they went on and they played for a couple of years, 75, 76, 77, as doing this thing. He actually appeared at this time period while the Monkees were on an episode of the Brady Bunch, which I didn't know, so I'm going to go and try and find that at some point. I wanted to see that. Anyways, so he was the singer for the Monkees, the main singer for the Monkees. If you watch the show, most of the big hits were sung by him or Mickey Dolenz, and the other guys just played the music on it. So anyways, he died of a heart attack when he was 66. The guys in the band basically said he was the band. He was the main band member. It was his band, and they were just basically the guys who filled in as his musicians. I chose Davey because he's one of actually 3 rock stars I've met in my life. The other 2 are Michael Levine of Triumph and Kim Mitchell, which I mentioned the other day. All 3 of them I met through my job at the racetrack when I was a young man. So anyways, Davey Jones, my memories of him was when he came to the track, all the women mobbing him. Even then, I'm got to say, that was probably 25 or so years ago. He was probably in his mid-50s at the time, and they still mobbed him anyways. Still had that appeal, I guess. And so I always liked his voice. I thought he had a pretty solid voice. I actually chose him not because so much he was kind of an actor, musician, but I chose him because I had the most experience with him of all the other people that were on my list here. If I had done this maybe in another month or so, I might have chosen Greg Ham from Men at Work, who I like quite a bit. But for this episode, I'm doing Davey Jones. So the next guy that I did tonight was John Lord. He was the first guy I chose. Very influential rock star, I think. Probably the oldest member of Deep Purple and one of the founding members of the band. So anyways, he died. He was born June the 9th, 1941, which is actually a few months before my mother, which is kind of weird. In Lancaster, England. He died July 16, 2012 at the age of 71 in London, England. He was rock, hard rock, heavy metal, blues rock, prog rock, classical music, jazz, and jazz fusion as well. So he was dabbled in a lot of stuff. His father was also a sax player. Wait a minute, he was a keyboardist, of course. I didn't mention that. Primarily from 1961 till 2012. His father was a sax player. He moved to London in 1959-60 and to become basically an actor, so more acting here, but he never actually became an actor. He played keyboards on You Really Got Me by the Kinks. When he first came, he was doing mostly session stuff. And then he played with the Flower Pot Men in 1969, and then he helped form, of course, the Deep Purple. He was one of the original co-founders of the group, along with Ritchie Blackmore, Ian Pace, Simper, and John Evan, I believe, were the 5 originals from Deep Purple. So he was actually one of the leaders of the band initially. So anyways, he helped pioneer the Hammond organ. He loved to play the Hammond organ. He actually fed it through his Marshall stacks and stuff and distorted it. So he was one of the first to do that. He didn't get too much into the synthesizer part, like Rick Wakeman or Keith Emerson, who actually both showed quiet admiration for his abilities with the Hammond organ. what else? So anyways, he died of a pulmonary embolism when he was 71. After his Deep Purple stint, though, he was with Whitesnake for about 4 or 5 years between the times that Deep Purple had folded and they started up again. And he was underpaid and under-recognized from David Coverdale, who dominated that band. But anyways, he did play with Whitesnake while the Deep Purple was in dormation. Once they came out and were in the Mark II phase, he rejoined them and he stayed with them until he retired in 2002. And I think he was actually replaced by his friend Don Airey in the band, so pretty cool. And he actually gave Don Airey the Hammond organ that he'd been using for some time, and Don Airey took that over. So anyways, there you have it. John Lord, I think the thing about John Lord I like is he's very heavy for a keyboardist. Like, this is a very distorted sound to his keyboard playing. It's not really like any other keyboardist that I can think of. Not really that crisp sounding like, say, the guy who was on Rainbow Rising, I think it was Kerry. Yeah, he was very clear, whereas John was always seemed to be very distorted musically, almost a Jimi Hendrix of keyboardists. Not in ability so much as in what he was doing with the keyboards. And so then he retired, and when he retired, this short period of time later, like within 10 years, he died of a pulmonary embolism. So there you have it, John Lord of Deep Purple and Whitesnake, and Davey Jones of the Monkees. So my honorable mentions tonight go out. There's quite a few of them, actually. Quite a few people passed on this year. Larry Reinhardt of Iron Butterfly and Captain Beyond. Bob Weston of Fleetwood Mac. Actually, Bob Welch also died from Fleetwood Mac that same year. Etta James, Whitney Houston, of course, these big names. Ronnie Montrose of the Montrose Band. Michael Flossack of Doobie Brothers. Hasek of the Doobie Brothers. Flossack. Where did I get that from? Graham Simpson of Roxy Music. Dick Clark, of course, of American Bandstand. Greg Ham of Men at Work, the great sax and flute player. Donna Summer. Robin Gibb from the Bee Gees. I already said, and Bob Birch from the Elton John Band, and there's a host of others too, but those people I wanted to give honorable mentions to on this series show. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, number 50 of 2012, of the Rock Stars Who Thrill Us, but since passed on. There'll be another one coming on Wednesday morning. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And we will see you tomorrow morning. This episode is being recorded on Sunday night. Will be aired on Monday morning at 9. I hope you enjoy it and you have a good evening, and we will see you in the morning. Bye.